Good evening. There are a lot of thoughts in my head right now, and I think they're all related, but I'm just going to talk and try to connect everything. So, where do I even start? I have been thinking more and more about this ministry plan that I have developed, and I've reached out to a couple more people to ask for feedback, just asking them to look over it and tell me what they think. And as I've been doing that, I've been feeling the need to sit down and actually write more in detail. So I've got the outline and I've done that, but actually beginning to sit down and writing, lesson to lesson, for lack of a better term, but then thinking, writing in various stages. So writing for a one-day seminar and capturing the highlights, and then writing for a weekend retreat, and then writing for maybe a summer-long study, and then developing a year-long plan, season to season, and then developing a 4-year program, because that was originally how I kind of intended for it to go, was that 4-year, set it up for a school year. I get reaching, starting freshman year, then going up to senior year, and doing this plan where each year builds on the next one. And ultimately that's the goal, but how do I get it out to more people on more levels? And so developing a format that is multifunctional, where you can connect the information and give people all the information in the allotted time frame you have. And so I've hit a bit of a roadblock in terms of writing, because I know kind of how I know how each element develops, and the hardest part is kind of putting that first one on paper. And I'm out walking and processing, and as I'm doing that, kind of the question of why is, what's the point? And there's a verse in Genesis that has stood out to me for a while, even before I got into hospice. But it talks about the death of Abraham. And it says that Abraham died an old man and satisfied with life. And that is the goal of how we want to die. So you want to die, in theory, you want to die old and satisfied with life. And so ultimately that's the goal, is we want to go through this in order to die satisfied with life. And being in hospice for the last several years you see things differently, and you experience death on a frequent and regular basis. So I have been in the room when the last breath has been exhaled. So I was the last person with this patient on this planet. So I was the last person with them before they stood before God. And the reality is we're all gonna stand in front of God. But seeing that, it's when I die, I don't want to be on my deathbed unloading a whole bunch of baggage and dealing with stuff that I've carried my whole life. And one of the, we have like a quarterly chaplain e-learning webinar thing. And one of them, like, it was super good, but it was all about that, helping people like tie up loose ends and helping people at the end like resolve their unfinished business. And I'm listening to it and thinking two things. One is, that's great, but 95+% of the people that I'm working with don't have the capacity to process this at the end, because the biggest diagnosis I've got is some form of Alzheimer's dementia that I'm working with. And so the mental capacity to deal with this stuff at the end isn't there. But two, the other thought I'm having is I would much rather work with people earlier in life to deal with that baggage so that at their deathbed they don't have to unpack all this stuff, and instead it's this: I have no regrets, I am old, and I am satisfied with life. And so ultimately that is what this ministry is focused on, is it's helping men of all ages, but ideally that 15 to 25 group deal with the stuff they've already experienced and learn how to deal with the stuff that they will encounter so that they can live life fully in order to get to the end and to have no regrets, and to get to the end and be able to say, I am satisfied with life. And so that's the point. That's the why of this. It's ultimately what this is all about. And with that has come the thought, as I've seen and I hear stories about how younger men are growing up and how young boys are growing up and the things that are happening and that they do. And there's somebody I know that is doing the absolute best she can to raise some boys and to do it pretty much on her own. And she's like, the patience she's got and everything that she's dealing with is amazing. It really is. And so if you watch this, you're doing a fantastic job. Keep your head up. But the one thing that gets me is she tells us stories about what they get into, and part of it is that's the big thing behind it is just that's how boys are and that's what boys do. And as I now am the father of a son, it's like, and granted, my son's not going to have the experiences that she's trying to bring healing to and resolution to, but I'm not going to allow my son to do things just because it's what boys do. And so we need to call out the men in our sons. And we need to, in Proverbs it says, train up a child in the way he should go. So it's not, I'm going to allow you to do this because this is what boys culturally do at this age, but I want to call the man out of you from the beginning, and I want to mold you and shape you into the man of God that you are called to be. And so if we intentionally go after this, and this is where society has failed men and failed boys, is we've allowed this to just go unchecked and crack it up to, this is a phase, this is just what boys do. But it's not okay. So I am in the process now of trying to get back into shape. And I don't have a dad bod, but I'm on my way there. And I look back at where I was, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I was a physical specimen. Like, I was in great shape. I had great endurance. I was strong. I was fit. And beyond, like, I looked good. Like, I'll say I did. But I got out of that habit of regular training. I got away from an environment where I was, I had a lifting buddy that we worked out constantly. I had the resources. And as soon as it wasn't convenient or easy and I didn't have someone pushing me, it was easy to get out of shape, and then gradually you just kind of make excuses. And so now I'm 38, nowhere near, like, 18 was 20 years ago, and I am now working to get back. And I'll probably never be in as good a shape as I was 20 years ago, but it's a lot harder to get back to where I was because I allowed everything else to kind of distract me from that. And so what I'm trying to do is create a program that's going to intentionally call out the men and boys and help them not, as the Bible says, not conform to the pattern of this world, not do what is culturally approved for a certain stage of life, but calling my son directly, my flesh and blood son, and whatever spiritual sons that God allows me to influence, calling the men out of each of them and helping them to understand this is who you are, this is who you were born to be, and allowing them the opportunity to find healing, to find their identity, to live with passion, and to leave a legacy so that at the end of life they are satisfied. And so that actually, I think, went together a lot better than I was thinking. But that's what I got. That's what I'm working on. And if you want to know more, if you want to talk more, if you're a young man or an older man that wants to live fully, let me know. And I'm happy to share my journey and help you on yours. So have a good night. I'll talk to you soon.